welcome everyone to our webinar today, which is on Mastering Visibility with NetSuite's 360 Dashboards. Before we get started, we'll have a quick agenda. So starting off, we'll have a quick introduction to myself for those of you that have maybe not been on our webinars before. We'll then have a quick recap on NetSuite's dashboards before we jump into the focus of today, which is the Customer 360, Cash 360 and Benchmark 360. At the end of the session, we'll also have time for a Q&A. So if you do have any questions as we go, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A box and we'll pick them up towards the end of the session. So a quick introduction to myself. My name's Johnstone and I am an account manager here at OneKloudX. If there's anyone on the call that's unfamiliar with OneKloudX and it's the first time you're joining for one of our webinars, we provide NetSuite implementation, development, support and training. So effectively everything across the NetSuite suite of services there. In my role as account manager, my focus is on making sure that NetSuite customers and users are getting the most out of the system and really maximizing the tools that are available. So before we get started on the Dashboard 360, just a quick recap on NetSuite's dashboards themselves. So NetSuite's dashboards are focused on providing real-time visibility to make sure that you're maximizing your efficiency and enabling informed decision-making, effectively making sure that you can spend as much time as possible within NetSuite using the data that's provided there without having to take that data out of the system and reformat it. Towards the end of last year, we did have a webinar which focused more broadly on NetSuite's analytics and reporting. So as well as some information there on dashboards, we also covered some information on reports, save searches and suite analytics. If you weren't able to make that session, we did provide a 20-page analytics and reporting user guide. So if that's something that you missed but would like to take advantage of, then please feel free to drop a comment in the chat box saying the word reporting, and we will follow up after today's webinar to provide you with that analytics and reporting user guide as well. So on to the focus of today's webinar, which is NetSuite's 360 dashboards. So when we refer to NetSuite's 360 dashboards, we are talking about free tools that are available that can further increase your visibility across your data within NetSuite. Now, there's various different 360 dashboards that are available within NetSuite, and today we'll be focusing on the Customer 360, Cash 360 and the Benchmark 360. We will be hosting a webinar coming up in the next month around some additional 360 dashboards that are available within NetSuite. So we will provide a bit more information in the chat box about that towards the end of the session. So if you do want to join that, then you can come along. As part of registering and attending today's webinar, you will also receive a copy of the OneKloudX NetSuite 360 Dashboard User Guide, and we'll send that across to you after the webinar so you can start taking advantage of these pieces of functionality as soon as possible. So starting off, we have got the Customer 360 Dashboard. Now, the Customer 360 Dashboard provides a comprehensive perspective of your customers all within NetSuite. Now, that includes information into the recent transactions that that customer has had, as well as your sales performance looking across the year, as well as all-time sales and the overall customer profitability. Beyond that, you also have visibility of the top-selling items ranked 1 to 5, so you can see exactly how many of these top items you've sold, as well as the revenue that has been generated. Beyond that, NetSuite's product recommendations, which is shown on the right-hand side of the Customer 360 dashboard, provides that AI-powered recommendations into other items and opportunities that you have to sell to your customers as well. Now, today we'll be trying to keep the slides to a minimum and focus as much on showing you the functionality in the system as possible. So with that in mind, I'll just jump over to the demo account that I've got set up for today's webinar. So you see in the top right-hand corner, I'm currently logged as a sales rep within this demo account. And you'll see here something that you'll all be familiar with. We've got our home dashboard set up to show us all of the information that we require on a daily basis. Now, beyond that, just a reminder or a recap that each of the tabs here also contain their own dashboard as well. So if you do wear many hats in your organization, you can segment that information across the different dashboards that you've got available on your center tabs. Now, jumping into the customer records and onto the 360 customer view. First of all, just a reminder that there's a couple of different views that are available with the customer view. We've got the standard form view, which you can see here, as well as the dashboard view, which allows us to visualize that information in a slightly more user-friendly visual format. Now, this is a customizable dashboard, so we can move around these sections and basically make sure that we've got visibility of our customer information in the format that we want. Now, beyond that, the focus of today is the Customer 360 view. Now, this Customer 360 view was released and revamped towards the end of last year. And again, it provides that holistic view of your customers across their recent transactions, sales performance, top selling items, and those AI-powered product recommendations. If I just open up a couple of different Customer 360 views here, you can start to see how that data is segmented to that specific customer. So you can see all of their key contact information along the top, and then all of that more detailed transactional information. So you've got all of the insights that you need across that specific customer. Now, beyond that, from here, we can start to take these product recommendations and create opportunities or sales orders or quotes or estimates using the intelligent recommendations functionality. So if we click here on our more options and then select create opportunity, we can start to use these AI-powered recommendations to build up opportunities for our customer. You see here with our intelligent recommendations, it shows us different items that are recommended for us for this customer. Now, these different recommendations can be based on various different things, whether it's their purchase history, alternative items to what they have purchased before, or even customers who have purchased similar items to them and their purchase history can all be taken into account using the AI-powered product recommendations and adding those on to your different transactions for that customer. So in terms of accessing the Customer 360 dashboard, there's no configuration or installation that's required. That should be available to you today. So if that's a tool that you're looking to use, then just have a look for that in the customer record and you can start to get that visibility and breakdown of your full relationship with that customer. Perfect. So jumping on to the next 360 dashboard that we've got for today's session is the Cash 360. Now, unlike the Customer 360, the Cash 360 is a suite app, which means that a lot of you might not currently have access to it just now. But keep in mind, this is a free suite app, so it can be simply downloaded from the suite app marketplace. The Cash 360 provides a real-time picture of your cash position, and it produces quick and precise short-term projections for your cash flow. It provides one consolidated area for you to track your balance, payables, and receivables all within one place. And you can also use historical data to predict your cash flow as well. And beyond that, you can add additional inflows and outflows. So you've got a full picture of what your cash flow forecast looks like. In terms of installing the Cash 360, if you don't currently have this within your NetSuite environment, an administrator can do this directly from the Suite App Marketplace. Now, there are some prerequisites in terms of the setup and features that you must have enabled before you install the Cash 360. Now, all of those prerequisites will be detailed in the Dashboard 360 user guide that we will be providing. So on to a quick demonstration of the Cash 360 dashboard. So before we jump into the demonstration itself, I'll quickly change over to an administrator role so we can show you how to access the Cash 360. So if you don't currently have this installed in your environment, an administrator can navigate to Suite Apps and simply search for Cash 360 and the Search Suite Apps functionality there. You'll see that the Cash 360 dashboard comes up as an option, and you'll simply have to go and click on Install here, at which point the Cash 360 dashboard installation will begin and will be installed onto your environment. Now from there, once you have installed the Cash 360, there's a little bit of user setup to make sure that the users within your business can access the Cash 360 dashboard. Now for that, you simply have to go to the relevant user roles that you want to provide access to, and then go into and edit the role that you want to provide access, and tick the Give Access to Cash 360 checkbox, which can be found here on the Authentication subtab. Now again, there's a couple of prerequisite permissions for users to be able to make use of the Cash 360, but beyond that, it simply is ticking that Cash 360 access checkbox to provide that visibility for the users that need to access the Cash 360. So I'll just jump into our financial controller role, and we will go through the Cash 360 dashboard. So once a user has been provided access, they can access the Cash 360 by going to Financials, Cash 360, and then clicking on the dashboard here. Now straight away, as soon as the dashboard is installed and access has been provided, the users will be able to have visibility like this. Now, to begin with, up in the top right-hand corner, you'll see that we can select the subsidiary context. So if you do have multiple different subsidiaries within your NetSuite environment, then you can select the subsidiary that you're wanting to view. Now, you can do that on an individual subsidiary level, or you can also do it on a full consolidated view across the different levels within your corporate structure. The Cash 360 dashboard itself provides a lot of useful information across your cash position, showing you here your bank balance, your receivables, and your payables, all in one centralized place. Now, beyond that, you'll see that we've also got a link to various different actions from the Cash 360 dashboard, whether that be viewing our invoices, approving invoices, going and looking at the AP or AR aging summary report, basically providing that central place for us then to go and take action on the different information that we have got displayed on the dashboard. Scrolling down here, you'll see that we have got the visualization of our cash flow forecast. Again, we can set this up in the preferences to show this across different ranges. We've currently got this set as a monthly forecast, so it's shown us across the next 3 months. Beyond that, you can also see here in the table, we've got the month, the inflow and outflow, and then the overall forecast for that month as well. Below that, we have also got the AR aging summary and AP aging summary, which shows us at a glance exactly what percentage of our transactions are across these different ranges, whether that's a current balance, 1 to 30 days, 31 to 60 days, and so on. We can have that visibility into the breakdown of our AR aging and AP aging. Now, if we did want to interrogate this information further, you'll see here, since we're on a demo account, we've got a high percentage that is current in terms of the aging there. If we wanted to exclude that, we can simply click that button there, and it's going to show us that percentage breakdown across these remaining bands once we have filtered that out. So a little bit of useful functionality there to view across the different ranges for your AR and AP aging. Now, beyond that, we've also got our cash forecast page, which shows us a bit more of a detailed breakdown of our cash flow forecast. Again, this is picking up the preferences, whether that's going to be a daily, weekly, or monthly forecast across the period that you have set on that preference tab. You'll see here it's broken down into your inflows and outflows. Now, although NetSuite, as soon as this Suite app is installed, does pick up your opening balances and your AR and AP, you're then in control of defining which accounts are going to be factored in for your cash flow forecast, which again, I'll get onto in a moment and show you how to do that. Jumping over to the preferences, first of all, you can select the forecast period. You'll see here we've currently got it set up as 3 months. Now the options here are 5 days, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 3 months, and 6 months. There were a couple of these options that were added as part of the 2024.2 release. Now from here, we can select the forecast period. So say, for example, we still want to look across that same range, but we want to look at a week-by-week forecast. We can update that to 12 weeks, click Save, and then on our cash forecast, we have then got the weekly breakdown instead of the monthly breakdown that we had previously. I'll just roll that back to 3 months for now. In fact, just to show you as well with the 12 weeks, if we go back to the Cash 360 dashboard, we'll see that the visual representation also updates in line with the preferences there. So in this case, we can see a week-by-week breakdown instead of the previous monthly breakdown that we had on our preferences before. So as mentioned, although NetSuite automatically factors in your AR and AP and picking up your opening balance, you can then create additional account categories for the accounts that you want to be included in your cash forecast. Now to do that, you simply need to go to Financial Cash 360 and then Account Categories, where you can then start to select the accounts that you're wanting to be included. In this demo account, we've got an example being the salaries and wages. From here, we can name this account category. We can select the type, whether it's an outflow or inflow, and then we can select the account codes that we are wanting to group together as this account category. Now, from there, once you've got that set up, whether it's an inflow or an outflow, that will then become available here on your categories, where you can then select this and decide whether you want to use that in your forecasting. Now, in this example, we'll set up our outflows being our salary and wages. So again, it's going to pick up the information, the different transactions that are across the selected account codes here. And then we can decide if we're going to use this in our forecast and the data that we'll be using, whether that's data across the last 3 months or 6 months, to then generate that future dated forecast. In this case, we'll say that we're looking at the data from our salary and wages across the previous 6 months. And we'll also say that we want to apply a 20% increase, as we have recently hired some new people across the team. Now from there, we simply need to add the account categories. Of course, in this case, we've just added the one outflow here, but you can go away and enter any inflows or outflows that you want to factor in, and then click Save. Now from there, your cash forecast will update, and you'll see here that we have now got that additional line for our salary and wages outflows. So again, you are in complete control of how you build this up and the different accounts that you want to include in that cash forecast, as well as any percentage movement that you want to apply for that forecast as well. Now, beyond that, there may be additional values that you want to factor in for which you know are going to be impacting your cash forecast, but there's not really information in NetSuite at present that would allow you to include that within the cash forecast. Now, from here, we can add these additional values. We can select whether they are an inflow or outflow, and we can also set the recurrence type. So for outflows, that could be things like rent of a new facility. We don't have any transactions within NetSuite yet that would allow us to factor this in, but we can come in here to our additional values, say that we're entering in rent. It's starting from the 1st of next month. It's going to be $5,000 per month, and that's going to be an outflow. We would then simply say that needs to recur 12 times across a monthly basis, so it's over that full calendar year. And we can go ahead and add that additional value and save, at which point, again, that's going to be added to our cash forecast. Now, the difference between your account categories and your additional values, you'll see here that you can visualize using that asterisk exactly what has been additional values that have been added versus what is the forecast based on those account categories that you have set up, which would simply be displayed using the name of that account category. Now, coming down to the preferences again, if you wanted to set up any additional values that were inflows, say for example, an investment or a bank loan, you can simply go through that same process of entering that in as an additional value, setting the date, setting the type, in which case it would be an inflow, the recurrence, whether it's a one-off or monthly, weekly, or daily recurrence, and then factor that in to the cash forecast as well. So again, the Cash 360 dashboard is a really useful tool to allow you to have that one consolidated place within NetSuite to view all your information across your bank balance, your receivables and payables, and then have that quick and precise cash forecast visibility as well, without having to take that information out of the system to be able to factor that in. Okay, so we'll just jump back to our slides and move on to the next dashboard, which we've got for today, which is the Benchmark 360. So again, the Benchmark 360 is a free suite app that allows you to benchmark 5 KPIs against industry standards, as well as against your own targets. Now, the 5 KPIs that come with this 360 dashboard are days cash on hand, days sales outstanding, days payables outstanding, employee turnover rate, and revenue per full-time employee. Now, the Benchmark 360, again, can be installed by your administrator directly from the Suite App Marketplace. And unlike the Cash 360, the only prerequisite for Benchmark 360 is that you have a NetSuite OneWorld account. So this should be available to most, if not all of you, on today's call. So again, spending as much time on the tool itself, we're going to jump into the demo account and go through a demonstration of the Benchmark 360. So again, I'll just switch over to an administrator to show where you can install this Suite app if you don't have it installed already today. So back in the administrator role, if we go to the Suite Apps tab, again, we can simply search for the Benchmark 360 here, at which point it will pop up as the Suite app. We can go into the overview and then again install that directly from here. To reiterate, there are no prerequisites for the Benchmark 360. You simply have to have a NetSuite OneWorld account, and from there, an administrator within your environment will be able to access and install from the Suite Apps Marketplace. Now, as with the Cash 360, there's a little bit of configuration just to allow the necessary users to access the Benchmark 360. You simply need to come into the necessary user role and then tick the box on the Benchmark 360 access to provide that access to the user that you want to be able to see the Benchmark 360. Now, once that access has been provided, you can access the Benchmark 360 by going to Lists, Benchmark 360, and clicking on the Benchmark 360 here. Now, again, this free Suite app provides that visibility of your performance across these 5 KPIs against industry standards, as well as against the targets that you set yourself. Again, you'll see here that you can select the subsidiary context. So if you've got multiple subsidiaries within your NetSuite environment, you can select the precise subsidiary that you're wanting to view this Benchmark 360 for. As we've selected subsidiary 1, you'll see here that all of the different graphics have updated in line with the performance for this subsidiary. Going through each of the KPIs, you'll see here that we can see our target versus our current performance. And then we also have visibility of the top 25%, bottom 25%, and median performance for companies within our industry across these 5 KPIs as well. Now, if we want that comparison, there is also the visualization in the bar chart on the right-hand side, and we can cycle through these different KPIs by selecting them here, at which point you'll see this updates, and we can see our current versus our target versus the bottom 25 median and the top 25 performing across that KPI as well. Now, scrolling down here, beyond the visibility that this provides, there are also recommendations for NetSuite's products and features, which would allow you to improve on these KPIs. So you see here, as we select the different KPI that we're visualizing, it's going to recommend some products and features that we can use to make sure that we are successfully performing across these different KPIs. Again, these products and features will be a mix of free and paid modules within NetSuite. You'll see here, for example, in this case, we're being recommended our Cash 360 dashboard and our customer dashboard, which are both free, but it's also recommending our NetSuite dunning letters to improve our cash flow and automate collections, which is an additional module which you can add to your environment. Beyond the products and features recommendations, there are also links to articles about best business practices. So if you want to get some more information on how to improve the different KPIs that are displayed here, then there's some handy articles there as well for you to have a look at. Now, as with the Cash 360 dashboard, the Benchmark 360 also includes a preferences page where we can start to select our account preferences as well as the classifications for the KPIs that we are visualizing. With the account preferences, this is where we select the industry, region, and company size that we are wanting to view a comparison of. So again, handy benchmarking tool. You can select the industry that's relevant to you, the region that you're wanting to view that for, as well as the size of the company in terms of turnover. Beyond that, you also have visibility of the KPIs and the KPI workbook that information is being sourced from. On the right-hand side, you also see the target that is set. So we can go in and update the target based on our business and what our aim is across that KPI. You also see here on the KPI workbook, we can select and change the workbook where this data is being sourced from. So although this Suite app does come with these KPIs pre-installed and configured, if there are any changes or amendments you want to make to the data that's being sourced for those KPIs, then you can do that by updating and creating a new workbook within the Suite Analytics tool. The only one that you can't do that for, just to highlight, is the employee turnover rate. The reason for that is this information is being sourced directly from the employee records using a couple of key fields there across the hire date and the termination date to be able to calculate that employee turnover rate as a total. Now, beyond setting up the KPIs across the board here, you'll see that there's an individual subsidiary tab, meaning we can go in and select the KPI workbook that we are using for that specific subsidiary, as well as the target for that specific subsidiary again. So once again, for those of you that have multiple subsidiaries within your NetSuite environment, really handy to set different targets across those different subsidiaries. You'll see here, for example, our days cash on hand, our target for our subsidiary 1 is 90 versus our target for our subsidiary 2 is 85. Now, beyond that as well, if you are a highly diversified business, you can also select the region and industry that you're wanting to benchmark for that specific subsidiary as well. Just to quickly touch on the different workbooks that are provided as part of this Benchmark 360. If we go into our Analytics tab, we can start to see the different Benchmark 360 workbooks that we've got there, the cash on hand, payables outstanding, sales outstanding, and revenue per full-time employee. Again, if you do want to make any changes to the KPIs that are being displayed on the Benchmark 360, you do have full access to go into the workbook, amend that information and the data that's being sourced from the data set, and then update that KPI to be sourced from that new KPI workbook that has been created. Now, again, if Suite Analytics, the Analytics workbooks, is something that you aren't completely across, We did go into this in a bit more detail during our previous webinar. So again, if that is something that you want to review further, then please do let us know, and we'd be more than happy to share the analytics and reporting user guide that we provided as part of that webinar. Okay, so that's it for our Customer 360, Cash 360, and Benchmark 360. From there, if there's any questions at all, then please do let us know. We will be sharing the user guide in the next couple of days. So if you want to go ahead and set up and install these different pieces of functionality, that will provide you the guidance that you need. If you do have any further questions or require any additional guidance, then please feel free to get in touch with myself, and I'd be more than happy to point you in the right direction for how to start taking advantage of these dashboard 360s as soon as possible. So we've got a question from Stephen P. And we have got cash flow statements are effectively movements in your balance sheet accounts. So can you bring in budgets and or forecasts from P&L and balance sheet accounts into 360 to give a forecast cash flow statement, including operating, investing, and financing activities? Okay, that's a great question there, Stephen. So that would all be based on the account categories that you are setting up. I'll need to do a bit of digging on that. I'll double check if your P&L and balance sheet accounts are available in your account categories, and then can be brought across to enable that forecasting that you'll be looking for. So let me follow up on that, and I'll get in touch with you directly to provide a more detailed answer on that. Okay, so we've had another message there from Bobby. Benchmark 360 install failed due to not having subsidiaries in Cash 360 for not having OneWorld. Okay, again, the only prerequisite to be able to access the Benchmark 360 is that you have a NetSuite OneWorld account. So if that install is failing, that would suggest that you do not have a OneWorld account. Perhaps you could reach out to your NetSuite account manager directly and ask the question as to why that is failing. It looks like Cash 360 is failing as well. It might be the case that you are on an older version of the NetSuite SKU. So yeah, I would recommend, Bobby, that you reach out directly to your account manager to find out a bit more information about that and see if they have got any guidance on why that install is failing. And we did finish up a little bit earlier than we had this scheduled for. So I'll hang about for another few minutes, but if you do have any questions at all, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. Beyond this, we do also have a webinar coming up on some additional 360 dashboards on the 20th of March. In this webinar, we will cover Item 360, Supplies 360, Project 360, and Vendor 360. I see that our marketing team has kindly added in the registration in the chat there. So again, if you're interested in finding out any more about these additional dashboard 360s within NetSuite, then please feel free to register. It would be great to have you all come along to that session as well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to pop them in. Or if you do have maybe any more detailed questions, whether that's about the content that we covered today or more generally about NetSuite's analytics and reporting tools, then please feel free to get in touch with us directly here at OneKloudX. And thanks again for everyone for joining. We hope to see you at the next month's webinar. Thank you.